holidays are coming up for many of us, and this can be a particularly stressful time, especially when we're getting together with in-laws and extended family, and conflict can tend to come up around these times. There's a lot of stressors that are happening during the holidays. So we're going to navigate some of those stressors and some tools to overcome those stressors today. So, some of the reasons why we have conflict during the holidays is, first of all, we're all getting together in someone else's space, typically, right? So, we're all joining together in a place that's new and potentially unfamiliar. We don't really know how to interact with each other. So, it's really important that one of the things that we do is really getting clarification about what we can do to help in those situations, how we can be of a support system to each other in those situations. So, really making sure that your communication is as clear as possible and that you also have some realistic expectations. So, obviously, we are probably going to have some disagreements and maybe some minor conflicts during these get togethers. And to let go of it, trying to be perfect, that's not going to happen. But that we have some tools in order to navigate those minor conflicts in a way that is going to be much easier, much more peaceful. So again, some of the reasons why we're having conflict is, first of all, we're in each other's space, and there's a lot of pressure to kind of get along. There's a pressure to, have a happy event, right? So some of those pressures are a little overwhelming at times. So again, just setting that expectation down a little bit and really recognizing that it's okay to have some conflict and have some things not go perfectly, and that it'll be okay. The other thing is often people are traveling, so they can be kind of fatigued or tired during their traveling experience. So there's already some stressors that are coming with that. So maybe they're not sleeping all that well, or maybe they have just traveled from a long distance and they're feeling a little bit less desirable personality wise than they may normally be. So giving people a little bit of space and a little bit of a break for when it comes to first getting together and just kind of giving people their time to kind of adjust and get used to the new environment. But really being clear about what you would like and what you don't like, especially if you are feeling like you get maybe some relatives that come and kind of take over. That can be really stressful for everyone, but giving those people some delegated tasks to make sure that they are able to feel like they're contributing, which is often why those people are doing that, but also that it's in a way that's productive and helpful for you. Also, making sure that you are taking some time where you are taking breaks. So you don't have to be together all the time whenever you have family visiting. It's okay to go read a book for a little bit or go for a walk or just take some time so you do have some decompression time, because nobody gets along 24/7 all the time together. We need to have a little space in order to keep peace in everyone's lives. Seeking support, if your family is really frustrating you, it's a great time to, again, go take a walk and go call a friend and vent it out a little bit so that you don't take it out on your family members. It's also really helpful to make sure that whenever you are having difficult areas of tension, especially if you've got that family member that's kind of like Eeyore, their tail fell off again, everything's sad and it's hard, that those people really do best whenever you are empathizing. Again, you don't have to endlessly empathize with them. You don't have to let them go on forever, but it usually mitigates the conversation a little bit whenever you can hear and validate what they're feeling. So, oh, I'm so frustrated about whatever it is. You don't have to talk about the whatever it is. All you have to talk about is, I'm that frustrated word, right? Whatever that emotion is, gosh, I get that. That's really frustrating. I hear that that's really frustrating for you, and I understand. Can I do anything to help is always a good option. And usually there's nothing you can do to help, but it's nice to know that somebody actually cares and that you're focusing on the emotion and you're not debating with them about whatever the topic is, especially if it's a topic that you guys disagree on, that you can still identify that empathy there. Like, gosh, I get it. That's frustrating. I see the way you see that would be really frustrating. Again, you're not agreeing with them. You don't have to agree. You're just validating their emotion. So that can be really helpful with just moving through things in a peaceful way, is you're not taking the bait, you're not debating about things that you're not going to change each other's minds on, especially if it's something like politics or religion, those really kind of hot button issues, but you're able to hear and validate their emotions and move through it. The other thing that can be obviously complicated during the holidays is alcohol consumption. This can be a challenging one to navigate because obviously you can't control what someone else does, but keeping a limited amount of alcohol accessible if it's your house can be a little bit easier to navigate that. But again, these are some of the things where you kind of have to set some more firm boundaries. If someone is excessively drinking and their behavior is aggressive or out of control, then those are some difficult areas that you might have to draw some more serious lines, and that can be really stressful during the holidays. But if you have some expectations set up beforehand, that can often mitigate. But again, sometimes, the people who are really struggling with that may not be able to meet your expectations, and that can be really stressful. And that's something to evaluate even before you involve them in the family event. Is this person going to be a safe person to be around us in the holidays if they are going to be excessively drinking or doing drugs for that matter, and causing conflict and strain at the event. So those are some things that are tough to evaluate. But if it is just, general family get together, then just, making sure that the alcohol is not flowing too excessively, because we can have conflict whenever it is. But again, with somebody who's really challenging or struggling with alcohol issues or drug issues, again, it may be an issue that's addressed prior to the event. And again, whether or not you really want to include them in that particular event, or maybe you invite them to a lunch where there isn't an option for drinking. There's also some family dynamics that can be really stressful. So we all get stuck in this kind of dynamic growing up in our families, where maybe one person is the scapegoat, or one person is the bad guy, or one person's the good guy, or one person's the caretaker. Whatever those roles are that you're playing in your family dynamics can be really difficult to break, and to not just fall into those patterns whenever you are getting together again. So doing some soul searching around that, like what are the family dynamics that maybe are uncomfortable, and how can I not take the bait and get hooked into that whenever I am faced with whatever that is. So maybe some family members super sarcastic and they trigger you, and it often makes you upset every time they say something sarcastic. But to practice some strategies for yourself, like, okay, I know that Aunt Susie is super sarcastic, and it really triggers me every time she says something like that's a little bit off. So how can I respond to that? And or do I need to respond to that? So those are some things. Is that a battle that I need to pick? Is that something I have to say something about? Or can I just ignore it in that moment? Or can I just say, ouch, and just let it go? Right? So that Aunt Susie hears that landed kind of harsh, right? But if you feel like you need to say something in that moment, you don't have to have a debate over it. You can just say something kind of brief so that they can get the message that, ouch, that was a little painful. That landed kind of hard. Or you can say, what do you mean by that? Sometimes when people are being sarcastic, they're trying to say something without saying it directly. So that can be kind of a really inquisitive question with a family member that's sarcastic, is because they kind of have to think like, why did I say that? And so they may be more self-aware or not. But if they are a self-aware person and you're willing to kind of engage in that with them, then that can be an area that you can, navigate. Well, what did you say that? Or what did you mean by that? In a loving way, again, not aggressive, but just, I'm not sure what you meant by that. Just to clarify with them. And hopefully they'll come back with you like, oh, I was getting kind of frustrated, or I didn't want you to do that, or whatever the situation is. But just navigating it in a more neutral, loving way. Or again, choosing to just not engage. That some things are just not worth battling, especially over the holidays. Again, we can address them later on. Politics and religion, not a good thing to talk about during holiday get-togethers. Again, if somebody brings it up, this is a great time to empathize. I understand that's a really frustrating topic, isn't it? Or this is a really stressful topic, isn't it? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's stressful for me too. Anyways, how about those potatoes, right? Change the subject. We also want to find areas of connection and agreement. So whenever you are having some of those moments where maybe Aunt Susie's being sarcastic, or Uncle Paul's talking about politics, that what can you do to change kind of the dynamic in that situation? Like, okay, so I'm going to initiate some games, or I'm going to start asking some curious questions about your family growing up, or some questions about your favorite holidays, or what your favorite memories are of a particular family member that you all really love and adore. So having some go-to things to kind of detour the conversations that can be a little bit more tricky can be another way to neutralize some of that conflict. So again, reasons for conflict: being uncomfortable in people's space, not feeling like you have control of the situation, feeling like there's going to be a conflict even if there isn't conflict, like that stressor, that pressure of the connection and the environment, and how do we navigate all these different personalities. But again, picking your battles, choosing what is necessary to say right now, what can I just maybe neutralize and kind of navigate a little bit less in a intense way, right? How do I not engage in conflict, and how do I detour the conversations that are going south? And if conversations are getting heated, what can I do? Like, okay, it's game time, or oh, I need you guys to help me out with this task. I'm trying to make these mashed potatoes so they're not lumpy. Can you help me out here? Or what's your secret to your recipes? Or what's your favorite memory for holidays? So again, there are ways you can detour the conversation in a more productive way, that it doesn't have to be high conflict. Also, delegating tasks to people, making sure that people have kind of some idea of how they can be helpful and what's not helpful. So really exploring for them what those expectations are and being clear about that in a loving way. That, hey, you guys, I would love some help with cooking, but I really, I just like to do the dishes my own way, so I'm just going to do that myself. But thanks so much for helping with the cooking. Right, so it doesn't have to be so hard to get along. Again, setting those ground rules, some expectations, and letting some expectations go, not engaging in the conflict, and giving some other options whenever things are going in a negative direction. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe if this has been helpful.